Good morning to each and every one, and we'll turn it over now in the hands of our very capable city clerk.
This is the pre-meeting of the Mobile City Council, Tuesday, October 13th. We have approval of minutes from October 6th.
Great job.
Appeals, we have requests for a waiver of the noise ordinance on October 24th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in Mardi Gras Park.
No problem.
November 6th from 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. And this is on Moffett Road. October 24th from 5 p.m. until 10 p.m. on Wellington Street. October 17th, 24th, and 31st from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. And this is in Bienville Square.
No problem.
October 31st from 4 p.m. until 10 p.m. on Yorkshire Lane. October 17th from 5 p.m. until 10 p.m. on South Conception Street.
No problem.
Nope. I don't have a problem on the Yorkshire Lane.
Okay. Public hearings today is a public hearing to rezone property located at the east terminus of Blue Ridge Boulevard, extending to the west terminus of Old Dobbin Drive North, the west terminus of Harness Way, the north terminus of Creek Line Drive, and the north terminus of Valleydale Drive from R1, R2, and B1 to R1.
You'll hear from the residents on that one. And their traffic study, which was promised to the residents when we had a community meeting that many attended from the subdivision, was reliance on a traffic study, which obviously happened during the pandemic. So I'm not certain of the counts. And the counts are really critical in getting the true impact of this development. So you'll hear from residents, and we'll lay this over for sure a week like we always do, but so we can discuss it again next week. But I really have reservations about having this rezone based on a traffic management plan that represents that no changes are necessary in order to accommodate this change in the area. So we'll leave it at that for now, but you'll hear from some residents. How many have signed in to address us, Ms. Lampert?
3.
I think so.
3.
Okay. And they'll give you a good picture of their concerns, I'm sure.
Presentation of the public hearing to declare structures at 1367 Congress Street, 2320 Boykin Boulevard, 3920 Delmont Court, 1775 Pake Avenue, 1801 Pake Avenue, 415 Gaston Street, 862 Charles Street, 620 Belleville Avenue, 652 Pillin Street, and 907 Kendrick Drive, public nuisances, and ordering them demolished and fixing the cost of securing structures. Okay, presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. We have signed for non-agenda items, Dr. Raul Richardson and Mr. Damian Marks and Mary Jess. Dr. Richardson and Mr. Marks are regarding the Police Citizens Community Relations Advisory Council. And Mary Jessie is speaking regarding 415 Gaston Street.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to go back to the first one where you have Dr. Richardson R. So we allocate 3 minutes. So are they going to split the 3 minutes?
It's right. It's one or the other. If one doesn't make it, then the other one is going to address.
Okay. Okay, so I I I I recommend we just say and. If one doesn't make it, the other one still can speak, because this R is going. You got split. You can, as long as you understand, if both of them are here, it's 3 minutes allotted for this slot. One can go a minute and a half, and let the other one go a minute and a half. It's not and.
Well, I think it means one or the other, not both. Is that the way you understood it, Lisa?
Yes, one or the other. If one doesn't make it, then the other one will speak.
All right.
Yeah. They're not both planning to speak.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
have you had an opportunity to speak with Dr. Richardson this week following last week's meeting? Any updates that maybe you can give us a heads up on?
I have not. The last communication we had was that the request that they made of both me and the vice president would be submitted to the mayor's office. Those requests have been submitted, and then we were to get a response in writing that we could disseminate back to the committee. And we haven't quite got that response yet. And I've been in contact with the mayor asking when would we receive that response as quickly as I have it or as the clerk has it. We'll make certain that it's circulated.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
last week, when I asked about that, the mayor said he would hold his remarks until after that presentation. They never got into anything that they were going to request the city. So the mayor made no remarks. So they had the mayor sitting there, and it was their opportunity just to make known what their issues were. The mayor said he would respond when they made their request. They made no request.
Well, they did make a request at that time on last week, but they've sent
Right.
2 letters. One that we all have gotten, and they've sent a letter following the meeting that Councilman Small and I had. And so based off of those letters, we have articulated to the administration what their need, what they saw their need as. And so the administration is aware of that, and we're just waiting now on a response. And I know these are hectic times with the pandemic and then the aftermath of Hurricane Sally and just the regular goings on of running the city. So that's not me being negative. That's just giving everybody a full appreciation of where we are.
Okay.
Madam City Clerk.
Essential COVID items held over, 64033, ordinance to rezone property located at 871 South Washington Avenue and 759 and 763 Pillings Avenue from B3 and R2 to B3. 64034, ordinance to rezone property located at 4350 and 4362 Government Boulevard from R1 to B2. 4586, declare the structure at 600 St. Louis Street a public nuisance and order it demolished. 01738, authorize agreement with Osprey Initiative LLC for the EPA Gulf of Mexico Trash-Free Waters Grant Project. 08740, approved in 741, 742, 743, 744, 745, 746, 47, 48, 49, 750, 751 are approving purchase orders. 2.
Can I ask a question about 749?
Yes.
And I don't know if the clerk is holding this, and I would appreciate it if you are, if you could send to council the specs on that furniture. I really went looking and Googled in the name of the company. This is called Sister Bay, where the furniture came from. And I really don't know which particular item this $52,000 represents for the tables and the chairs. And so if we could be given that, I think that would be helpful. Because it
Hey,
just
Lisa.
seemed like it was a lot of money for furniture, but I understand a commercial grade is often more costly. I just couldn't find it on the website. I even wrote to but they didn't answer me. But I'm just curious to know. And I tried to get the model number, but they didn't have that model number that showed on our paperwork. So if there's anything that is in the thing that we didn't get or that the city might have. And I
Hey,
was
Lisa.
supposed to get this. I bought these questions up last week.
Lisa,
John Payne is on. Yes.
Okay,
Hey,
good.
Lisa, didn't we upload a copy of the bid response to the bid? I don't have it where I can look at it at the
No.
moment.
Yeah, it's in Novus.
Okay.
There is a resolution and a purchase order. And that's all that I see on there. Purchase order is like 5 pages.
Well,
Okay.
if that could just be scanned in and sent between now and 10:30.
We'll get it taken care of.
Okay. I mean, I just, like I said, I went to the website of the company, that Sister Bay that makes the furniture that then sends it to Home Depot. And you said it's a commercial grade, but I couldn't find which product lined up with their commercial grade. And they didn't
Okay.
answer my question.
All right. We will
you.
get the bid scanned and sent to you.
Okay, appreciate it.
Well,
Okay.
Councilor Rich, who did you ask the question of?
Last week, I questioned the amount of the product, that the tables are a little over 1,000 and each side chair was $300 and I think $57. And so the whole package came to a little over $52,000.
Right.
And I just thought it just seemed so high. And then I was told that there were different type of product. And on the Home Depot, it mentions a commercial account, but that doesn't necessarily mean a commercial product. It means the city has a commercial
Nice.
account with them. So anyway, so more
Okay.
details would be great on this.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
We'll get it.
Miss Rich,
Okay.
Miss Rich, you weren't able to pull it up on Novus when
Well,
you,
it doesn't have the bid specs in it.
oh, it didn't have the bid specs in it. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll get
Appreciate
We'll
that.
get it, Lisa. We'll get it to you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Richardson?
I'll wait on, Madam Clerk had something to say.
Oh,
But I
no,
Ms.
I was
Lambert?
going to ask, no, I was going to ask if there were any other questions on any of the other purchase orders that I did not read through.
Yes. Last week, I raised the issue regarding 08748, 11 stretchers. In looking at it, it appeared that the stretcher itself, ambulance stretcher itself, was the stretchers were at a normal cost about $1,800 each. That wasn't nothing abnormal about the stretcher itself. But when they finished adding on to the stretcher, the 11 stretchers is costing us almost $250,000. So I would like for someone to go over the items. What is it that we are paying for other than the stretcher that's causing these stretchers to go up to this price?
Mr. Richardson, they added all the options to those stretchers, including a counter to how many times it goes up and down. I think that question is best directed to Jeremy Lamy. I can send you the bid specs, which apparently you've already seen. But I'd recommend you guys contact Jeremy Lamy on each of the items that they've added to it for their reason.
Could Lamy
No.
be here at 10:30? Can he
Where's the
zoom in on? Can he zoom in at 10:30?
Could ask him.
We can
Was
make
Jim-
that request, Mr. Richardson. Or either,
We did it
or either have
last-
him reach out to you between,
Well,
at 9 and 10:30.
no, well, how about if we just hold it up? And, because we asked last week for that kind of explanation very specifically on both of these items.
I'm not against it, Mr. Williams.
I mean,
I
this is
agree.
not an emergency. It's a great thing to have. And we've all been unanimously supportive of our public safety. But they have to understand that when we ask a question, they got to answer the question. And I'm going to vote no if we don't get an explanation and the vote actually takes place. I would prefer that we hold this up another week unless we get an explanation. I asked for a demonstration, if you remember.
I do
They could
remember.
and zoom it in and show it to us and somehow get us this better explanation of it.
Is there anyone with the administration on with this particular meeting? Let me see. Well, we're running into these issues with,
Mr.
hello?
President Manzi. Hey, this is Director Barber.
Good morning, Director Barber. We've got 3 or 4 issues that we've asked for, items for clarity from last week, and we really got nothing. And so, I know Councilor Rich had a concern with the tables from the convention center. Mr. Richardson, Councilman Richardson, with the stretchers and the cost difference between the standard model and all the add-ons. And so if we could get that information, it's on the agenda to be voted on today, and there's hesitance with moving forward because we don't have the information we requested.
Well, I guess first and foremost, let me address the stretchers. These are automated stretchers. They actually are powered, motorized stretchers, so they lift up and down without manual lifting. And so that's to prevent injury to the paramedics that are having to lift those stretchers back in and out of the ambulances. So that's why the cost of the stretchers is a bit more. I hope that answers Mr. Richardson's questions. As far as the outdoor.
No, that's not going to do it, Jim. Because
That's not Jim Barber's. That's, we'll get that information on the stretchers for purchasing.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Director, you can continue.
Well, I was wondering, is there another question that Mr. Richardson has about the stretchers, or is John Payne going to handle from there? Is there more specifications that he needs?
I think John Payne indicated that he would get us all of the bid specs, and if he has any further questions, he'll let us know. Is that sufficient, Mr. Richardson?
Yes, as long as I get the information. Yes.
I cannot, this is John Payne. I cannot arrange a demonstration. That'd be something the fire department have to do for you.
Yeah, well, that's kind of where we thought might be something good. And then we find out there's no, that we haven't even built these things yet, but it would have been nice to have a link to the site that everybody looked at to convince themselves. I hope Jim's still listening, maybe the mayor. That's a lot of money. And I would say that not only is the council interested, but we should know when we spend that kind of money that it has hydraulics, or it has air, it has, it has a motor that rolls it once it hits, it goes on automation. Once it hits the truck, it locks down automatically. We heard a lot of things last time kind of thrown out. Just none of that's been verified by the people who actually picked this thing. So I'm still a bit reserved, as Fred is, I know.
Yes. Last week we had a Ford on there that costs less money than one of these stretchers.
Right.
So hydraulics, you can get a stretcher for $1,800 with hydraulics already on it. So the hydraulics is not driving the price; it's something else. And I would like to see what's driving this price. It's not hydraulics.
I'd like to hear from the people who decided to buy it. I'm with you, Fred. I'm just saying what I heard last week, and I'd like to hear it from Jeremy. I don't think that's a big deal to ask, or his purchasing person. because our guys just put it through administratively. With all due respect to Mr. Payne, it's they were given the specs and
Oh, yes.
and they
Right.
followed the
They ordered that.
instruction of the fire department. Thank you.
Hearing no further explanation and with the request out there, is there any other discussion? Madam City Clerk?
Okay. 21752, authorized contract with Michael Baker International for engineering services associated with Beauregard Street at Essex Railroad Bridge, repair and painting. 21753, authorized 3-year service contract with Johnson Controls for chiller service and maintenance at various City of Mobile facilities. 21754, authorized service contract with Fidelity Port and Maritime for upgrades to the master control systems for the movable gangway at the cruise terminal. 21755, authorized contract with Watermark Design Group for Fire Training Center, Administration Classroom Building Phase 2. 6770, authorized applications, agreements, and costs for APWA and CAPRA accreditation. COVID,
What is APWA?
American Public Works Association.
American Public Works Association.
All right. Okay, we got the fire department accredited. We're gonna not get public works accredited. I say let's go for it.
Essential COVID-19 items.
Madam Clerk,
sir.
I would like to know is Colonel DeLapp is on the line, and so could he just explain to us exactly what is this, this application is and everything?
Yeah, this is Jim DeLapp. So both the American Public Works Association accreditation and the CAPRA, which is the Parks and Recreation accreditation, are the national accredited organizations that accredit municipalities, much like the ISO certification for the fire department, although they're working on their own accreditation as well. It's a national standard by which top rate organizations meet those criteria. And but to do that, it's about a year-long process. We're both starting that in our public works as well as our parks and recreation. There is an application fee associated with it. You have to sign an agreement with them that you're going to go through the process. They send teams down that do assessments of your organization as you get to certain milestones and at the end, particularly at the end. And there's an initial application fee, and then there's typically some other costs associated, such as manuals that you get to distribute to your team, and then probably at the end some transportation costs in terms of travel costs for some individuals to either go to that organization or to receive the accreditation and or to do visits to adjacent communities. So, for example, Gulfport, Mississippi is an accredited APWA Public Works team. We'll likely at some point drive over there to go visit them and see what they did to get to the accreditation. Not a big expense for that, but a minor expense. So this allows us to enter into the agreement and also incur the minor expenses that are associated with that. But there is a significant overall application cost for that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Mr. President, if I may.
Mr. Williams?
I didn't see anything reference to the fees, and I kind of question, why are we having to give our blessing on this particular one? Why is the city council asked to allow an application for accreditation? We didn't get that same request when the police went for their #1 rating. So why in this case is the council being asked to say we're doing it.
Councilman, this is Jim again. Two things. One, it shows the support of the council for the process, which is important. Both of those accreditation organizations mentioned that as a thing that you want to do. Number two, the mayor could enter into the agreement, but there is cost. This authorizes up to, for both of them, up to $50,000 to be spent over the year for those accreditations.
Wow.
I missed that
So this-
somehow.
Right.
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
it should
Okay.
have been in
Did I
the,
just,
yeah.
I don't know what you said, John. I heard you go to say something. And then
was it, did I miss it? Was that in the resolution and I just missed it? That we are authorizing 50,000? And I don't have a opposition to it, but generally when we're involved, we're talking about money, or we're waiving a law, or changing a law, or,
And that's what it does, is it not only allows, it not only notifies you that the administration will be doing the agreement, but it authorizes, it should have been in that packet. That's the amount that we put into there. Now that's on the high end. We wanted to be safe, but the applications themselves, I think one is 10 and one is $20,000. And then we left a buffer above that for all the other incidental expenses that'll probably be incurred throughout the year. And so we just went to that number as a kind of top end number.
It is on
so
the
without
resolution.
exception, I don't know how I missed it.
It's at the bottom, it's the last, next to the last sentence of the resolution.
Not to exceed.
Okay, I've just missed it. So the two things that we're doing is showing support. We're not authorizing anything outside the funding up to 50 on each one of them.
That total, no, that's total for both.
Total for both. So we're authorizing a total of 50 for both applications together combined, and we're showing support. Other than that, we're not authorizing or supporting any other action. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's all I need. Thank you.
Well,
I really
Mr.
appreciate
they're probably gonna have to sign a
Mr.
contract, but it sounds like we do.
The contract will be signed by the mayor or the administration.
it. Yes, professional services. Yeah.
Mr. President,
Ms. Gregory,
on this, Colonel DeLapp, what does it mean for the Parks Department and Public Works to have this accreditation? We understand what it meant for the fire department to raise the ISO, but what would this mean then for these two departments to get this accreditation?
Well, very similar to what the fire department had in terms of their ISO certification. It puts us in a very small group of organizations and municipalities that have this accreditation. I apologize for not having the specific number in front of me on nationally, but it is a very small group. From a public works standpoint, as you know, we've been challenged in the past, and in doing this, not only will we be in that small group now, but we will have gone through and revamped a lot of our policies, procedures, and practices in that entity, and really gotten on standard with what the national standard should be for a top tier public works organization. And the same goes for our parks and recreation organization. So it allows, although it's a relatively small investment, the hard work's being done by all those people in those departments right now to apply new standards in how they operate and write new policies and procedures for how we're going to do business in the future.
So in essence, it means better service for the citizens of Mobile. Their insurance isn't going down like it would for the fire department's rating, but for public works and for the parks, I take it to mean that higher standards means then better quality of work, better service for the citizens of Mobile. Am I on the right track?
100%. And it's implementing all the best practices that are found nationally here in the city. So our citizens will see better services throughout the city in both of those areas. And really, it extends beyond public works, because a lot of the supporting functions, whether it's HR or procurement and other things all have a piece to that. So not only will it impact public works, but we'll start to have best practices and better performance by a lot of the support functions as well that are here in Government Plaza.
Are you through, Ms. Gregg? Let me ask Colonel, will that have any impact on their salaries? Going to a higher standard, a national standard in such a small group of cities that would have these high standards, will that have any impact, or will any part of what they will be analyzing be looking at their salaries?
Well, we analyze the salary routinely to make sure we're on par with other entities. It does not directly change or adjust salary based on the accreditation. But I think it's fair to say that those things are always looked at routinely.
Yes, sir.
I have a question, if I may.
Ms. Rich from the 6th
Thank
District.
you. Colonel DeLapp, on the parks, I'm not sure about the public works, but does this help to apply for grants to be accredited? Do groups that give grants look for that type of, honor, so to speak, or method of how the park services are delivered?
Absolutely. Having that, feather in the cap definitely shows that that organization is a top tier and meets all the requirements. So someone awarding a grant doesn't have to worry about someone not, fulfilling the requirements of that grant, because they're dealing with a top tier organization.
And I think that would be a very good thing when it comes to parks. Thanks.
I've got a 2-slide presentation I'll forward to y'all to review as well.
Thank you.
That would be, so Colonel, is this the reason? I would imagine that Ms. Smith had been reaching out to our board appointees about meetings and things of that nature.
Yes, sir, that's exactly right, because that's part of the accreditation, is to make sure that those boards are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And we had a very, very good meeting with them. They were all very supportive of it. And so, again, all this is a good thing. And your passing this today is just giving the support and also allowing up to $50,000 throughout the year for both of these accreditations to be done.
We're certainly appreciative of all of the additional information and look forward to getting the 2-page slide that you'll be sending to us.
Yeah, Mr. President, can I make just one more short comment?
Absolutely, Mr. Williams.
That is, and Colonel DeLapp kind of touched on it right there at the end, and that was, this would make sure, or we want to make sure that the boards are doing what they should be doing. And what they should be doing is following the ordinances that the city council established, and or resolutions. I'm not sure if all of them are under ordinance. And if they're not, then and I've talked to Colonel DeLapp about this, that they need to notify the city council so that the city council can address that board or that appointment. It's our appointment. It's our board. Just to kind of throw it out there. Thank you.
Oh, and if I could comment on that process about the board.
Absolutely, Ms. Rich.
Thank you. Colonel DeLapp, were there minutes taken at that meeting? And could the council receive that so that we can keep up and be able to talk with our representative and have that information? If I know it's sunshine and that anyone could attend it, but that's often not practical for everybody. But if we could get the minutes, that would be very helpful. Do you know if that takes place?
It was a Zoom call. The admin for Ms. Shonda Smith was there, and there was, I believe, some minutes taken. I don't know how official the minutes were of that call. It was more of an information update to them, but about going through this process, just like we've done here. But I know that they also provided them when I say them, the members of the board, the requirements that the CAPRA has for those boards. So that was sent. And so we'll forward both of those to you as well.
And if what we would ask, Colonel, as we go any further in the process, if there's any interaction with boards that we appoint to, make certain that we are notified of times of meetings and that minutes are kept because I know if this were reversed and this were an administrative effort, there would be very stringent requirements, even within our action. And so if we could keep that as a practice going forward, we want to be and hold to the highest standard, but we also want to make certain, because I got calls from members from persons who I've appointed, let's say to the not the tennis board, but the golf advisory board, and I really had no idea what he was referencing. And so if we could just stay in the loop with that process as we move forward, I think it would be appreciated by all of us.
Well,
Are you still there, Colonel? Has the Colonel checked out on us?
I think so.
Well,
And again,
we'll put it in writing. We'll
Yeah,
put it in
and
writing. And
if there's something they need to be doing and we need to change the ordinance, then we need to change the ordinance.
right.
For the
I agree with
administration
you.
to direct the board to do things to help the administration, they're generally not there to help the administration. They're there to represent city council in an advisory role. And in the position of the golf board, it's a little more than advisory. They do make decisions. So,
Mr. President,
okay.
he did respond to the affirmative. I think his mic was dead. I heard him in the other room. I'm in my office. He responded in the affirmative when he said absolutely, but I think their mic died or something.
Okay. Now who is this?
That was
This
Matt.
John Payne.
I'm sorry, this is Matt. Yeah, this is Matt Anderson.
Oh, Matt.
Oh, that's
my
Matt.
fault. Matt Anderson. Okay.
Yeah, and Mr. President,
Ms. Gregory?
also with these boards, some of them haven't been meeting as often as others, and so we may need to make some new appointments. So this will be a good chance to find out if that's the case or not. You know, I don't know that all of them have quorums all the time. Some of the members may have, decided they don't want to be on the boards any longer. So we just need to know if we need to make some new appointments one way or the other.
I totally agree with all of these new standards and accreditation. We need to make certain that persons who we've appointed are committed and will show up to meetings and are actually being vital parts of the team. So I totally agree with you. Thank you, Colonel, and Ms. Shonda Smith and everyone who's been working on all these great projects. This is exciting.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Madam City Clerk.
Essential COVID items being introduced for the first time. 50035, ordinance to amend section 50-2 of the city code concerning distribution of improvements.
Mr. President.
64.
Okay, what number was that, Madam City Clerk?
50035.
50035.
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I would make a request that that each council member sign up by next week as a sponsor of this one. What has happened? We have already voted in the capital project recommendation by the mayor. The 14.1 million is already passed. We're dealing with going forward, and the issue, my District 1, among others, was left out, and I raised the issue. And Joe was the first to raise the issue regarding time, and he also asked for an opinion because it was stated that the mayor had to do that, but that was so fixed time that he had to divide it as fairly and as equitably as possible, that he had time. So there was an opinion. Chris issued an opinion. And he too said that had the ordinance said something to the effect that the mayor would be made fairly and as equitable as possible among all council districts each year, then the mayor would have had to divide the money up equally among council districts. So all this ordinance is doing is adding the each year to it. So the next time it comes up, it's not going to be at the discretion of the mayor on how to divide the money up. It would be divided up among all council districts each year is all he's adding. So I would like to have all our council members to sign in as a sponsor by next week on this ordinance.
Any, Ms. Richardson, if you don't mind, tell me how do you see this being, what would be the difference between what we do now and what would happen after if your ordinance is adopted?
Chris. Is Chris there?
Oh, he's there. I'm sorry, Mr. Arledge, if you could just go over briefly what change would be wrought by adopting this ordinance.
The ordinance
And
right
I've
now,
read it. Don't get me wrong. I've read it. I read the one we have now. I read what's being proposed. Would like just for public consumption a understanding from you as to what would change as a result of this.
well, the question was asked, does the ordinance as it's currently written require equal funding every year? And it was my opinion that it did not, because the words, it had fair and equitable, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's equal. And then there was no reference to time frame, one way or the other. So adding in the each year reference to time frame sort of forces the issue as far as the final adoption, but it's the council that, you know, votes or doesn't vote for this in the end. And it sort of forces the issue on y'all.
And what resources would be impacted by the adoption of this ordinance? When you say
Depends on what
capital,
the rest of the budget looks like.
What?
say that again, Mr. Arledge.
We're talking about capital only.
Right.
So the impact would be, I assume there's, you know, one pot of money of a certain amount, and if something changes on one side of it, the other side has to be adjusted.
I'm going to definitely need to know, you know, because capital is such a very, you know, it's a very general term, and there's several streams of resources we get that flow into that. And as a, you know, I've got the district, you know, on paper, my district has most needs, more needs than probably any other district. And so I'm just wanting to make certain that if we put something in place that says all of it is going to be divided 7 different ways, essentially, you know, I want to make certain that that's not harming what's going to be happening in my district.
So in light of that, Mr. President, you wanted to say that the mayor can spend any way he wants to?
No, sir, I'm not saying that.
It ain't but 2 ways.
No, it's more than 2 ways.
Name me the other way.
Well, we have the way we're doing it now, and the way that you're proposing. All I'm trying to do is gain clarity.
No, this is the first time we had it this time.
Committee.
Mr. President,
We had this.
Mr. President,
Mr. Davis?
the mayor proposes, the council disposes.
Right.
The mayor put forward a budget. The mayor put forward a budget. The council recently passed that budget.
Right.
Thank you.
I agree.
And there's-
Mr. President,
No need.
Ms. Gregory?
Yeah, I think in this coming week, if we could get a little bit more clarity, because I think what you're talking about is capital general outside of our 3 million per district.
Absolutely.
There is more capital that is used throughout the city. And I think it is a broad term because not only do we have that specific capital, but we get grant money that comes in that is used for capital. And then we have economic development incentives that's also in a lot of ways used for capital as well. So I think getting a more clarity, more details on exactly what money we're talking about here, how much that could be, and what impact it might have on the overall city needs list, and projects that we have going on. And like you said, downtown, there's a lot of capital needs that you don't necessarily pay for out of your District 2 budget because of all the different facilities. And of course, we got the Broad Street grant going on now as well. So there's just a lot of, I think, clarity that we need to get before moving forward on this.
And which is why I'm asking the question, so that I can make certain, I'm totally in support of what we have in place as relates to CIP. There are a lot of people who criticize it, say, hey, you got more needs, District 1 has more, District 3 has more, so you all ought to get more. But it has worked and it has been beneficial to all communities all across this city. That has worked. But I don't want to be shooting myself in the foot by making things equal in other respects, when I know that in the grand scheme of things, the district I represent may have more concerns than others. And that may be the case for you all as well. I can only speak for me. So I'll ask those questions between now and next week. And if any of you all have any other questions, please get them submitted so that hopefully we can make an informed decision.
Can I comment?
Ms. Rich?
If you'll recall the ordinance that it failed last week, but it talked about the fact that we have a CIP program that is by ordinance that basically legislated that city parks would become part of the CIP program, but the use of surplus dollars were not fairly and equitably split when it came to park projects. So I'm wondering whether we want to talk about a fund that at all times stays equal year to year. We set it at the 3 million, but if there is any way to make sure that if there is additional capital, which this time it was surplus, that's not always going to be the case year to year. But if it changes the dynamics of what was legislated by the council, and if future councils follow it, then city parks were always embellished using, and their improvements rather, not necessarily embellished, but enhanced and improved by using the CIP program. So the inequitable and the unfair happened with the use of surplus. So maybe drilling down to get exactly how councils could annually look at resources that are fairly and equitably split. Because I think I know it's been a very successful program to have that equal amount per district, and keeping that in place when you have surplus money would have been a good thing, but without it having a calendar year, then that really was not, that's probably one of the reasons it got defeated, perhaps, I don't know. But it failed. And again, that was something that I thought all council people would want to right the ship on. So if this language can be tweaked to talk about surplus money and anything that would go into normal procedure using CIP money to keep that fair and equitable year to year, might be the resource on this ordinance that we want to look at and drill it down some more, so that we're not talking economic development. Only items that normally fall under, by law, the CIP funding, that those be equitable from year to year and fair.
Mr. President,
Ms. Richardson?
I can understand you saying that you don't want to vote on something that might negate your opportunity, your chance to get more. I'm here to tell you, it could negate, it could end up not you getting more, but you're not getting anything. Because we will be giving that discretion to the mayor. It's good, it's one thing to say next year I may get even more. Next year, you might be just like District 1. You may not get a dime next year and the next year either, while other districts instead of getting money. I see what you're saying, but when you got a district that didn't get anything, and we're saying, and we got council members saying, well, I want to continue to go down that road, because I got something. Sorry for that district. I want to continue on. I don't want no equity. I don't want him being fair and equitable in distributing money, because I want him to be unfair and give me more and give some less. Is what we're really saying. And what happened? We got the election coming up. We may have a different mayor, and he's gonna take that and say, I'm gonna take this money because y'all said it, and I'm gonna put every dime of it over here. We need to solve this problem right now.
Mr. President.
Well, you finished, Mr. Richardson?
Yes, I'm through.
Mr. Davis, and then Mr. Williams, did you indicate you wanted to say something?
Yeah, for a second. Thank you.
Sure. Mr. Davis?
Okay. As I said earlier, the mayor proposes a budget and then the city council passes. If there's the time to address this issue that's been raised is at the time the budget is passed. The mayor doesn't, the city council doesn't have to swallow what the mayor sends down. The city council can amend the budget. If 4 council members feel that it's unfair, they can change it. We don't need this ordinance. Thank you.
Yeah, I disagree.
Mr. Williams?
Yeah, I don't like to count the number of years I've been on the city council, but there was over half of it, I experienced zero capital, zero improvements, zero attention. And that was why we did the CIP, so that we could have a reasonable amount of influence. And then we left certain dollars that were entirely up to the mayor. We gave some guidance, but that mayor did nothing in accordance with our guidance, that resolution that was provided. Nothing was said. And now we went back and we said, okay, you have to spend it on capital, but it's as long as it's capital expenditures, we wrote the ordinance. And I would not be in favor of going further down the line of saying this is where things are. Things are not always fair on the surface, but I think that if we look at overall these last years, even to include the last 15 years, that we're going to find that maybe not every contract was in accordance with our liking or the strict expectation of funding into a given district or employing a certain part of our population. But overall, we are not only in compliance with the state and federal laws, but we're in accordance with our own law. And I think we ought to leave it as it is. When we start doing it so that the council is dictating where every single dollar goes, and that's kind of the slope we're headed down, I think it's a bad route. We have a 7-member council with a super majority to ensure that the population as a whole is heard, and that minorities are not ignored, regardless of if that's political views or economic, social, whatever it is. That's what supermajority is all about. And supermajority spoke. And I haven't always been in agreement with what the supermajority has said. But I think that this proves that we need to, first of all, keep supermajority, and we need to be careful how far we go into meddling with the priorities of any administration, any at all.
Well, Mr. Williams, I certainly, I know there's one aspect of what you said I agree with 100%. And I'm glad you said it. And I would hope our other colleagues would join you in reaffirming the strength and the need for us to keep the supermajority. I agree with you 100%. Any other commentary? Madam City Clerk?
64036 is an ordinance rezoning property located on Blue Ridge Boulevard. 03772, concur in the reappointment of Edward Minton to the Mobile County Racing Commission.
I just want to stop briefly to say that I had a lengthy conversation with Mr. Minton, and he really appears to be a very interested and committed member of that board. And I just wanted to thank him for his many years of service. He's indicated he's been on there a while. And I know that the trying times at the Greyhound Park. And so I just wanted to say that publicly, that I was impressed with our conversation and his commitment to that board.
Yes.
03773, appoint Morgan Spivey to the Human Relations Commission. 08774, approve item-based bid for ammunition with Craig's Firearms Supply, Gulf States Distributors, Precision Delta Corp., and the Sportsman's Headquarters. 08775, approve purchase order to Ward International Trucks for 3 trash shuttle trucks, $299,697. 31776, authorize an application to State Farm for the 2021 Good Neighbor Citizenship Grant. 37777, rescind and revoke Resolution 37758, recommending approval of a retail beer, table wine, off-premises only license for Strategic Solutions and Services on Azalea Road.
Mr. President.
Mr. Daves?
Yes, as you can see, I sponsored this. This is a convenience store located at the corner of Pleasant Valley Road and Azalea Road across from Denton and Davidson Schools. And certain facts came to light after we approved this last week, which led the administration to request that we revoke that grant. And I'm going to ask Mr. Arledge to fill in some gaps on that if he'd like to.
Yes, I believe they found out either during or after the council meeting that the lady that was the applicant for this LLC was ineligible to receive a alcohol and or tobacco license due to her immigration status. And then at some point in the process, the LLC tried to change the owner to a man who, I don't know if it's her husband or what he was, but that particular fellow, the city has had several issues with unpaid taxes and amounts owed and switching to different LLCs and things. And so, and that guy wasn't even on the application in the first place. So the application just really had some invalid information and shouldn't have been granted, but we didn't know it at the time.
So if there are no questions, Mr. President, I'd like to ask that we take this up today, along with the other items we take up today, and not hold it over.
I absolutely agree with you. And any questions of either Councilman Daves or Attorney Arledge? Thank you, Mr. Davis. Madam City Clerk?
4778 through 4787 are declaring the structures public nuisances and fixing the cost of securing structures and for demolition of structures. 4788, change the name of Asco Road to Austell Way. 58789 and 790 are declaring weeds noxious and authorize removal of weeds, groups 1608 and 1607. 60791, determine an expenditure to the United Way of Southwest Alabama, serves a public purpose and approve payment. 6792, approve recommendation to sell West I-65 Service Road North property. Announcements.
Okay, Mr. President, I could just run through these. We're gonna waive the rule on, which would be 03772, reappointment of Edward Minton, 03773, appointment of Morgan Spivey. 31776 is authorized an application to State Farm for a Good Neighbor Citizenship Grant. Everybody okay picking that up?
Yes, I am.
And 77, and then we got, then we have all of the declaring the structures and fixing the costs. Change the name of Adsco Road. And
Did you line them all up, Joe? Is everybody are we
Yeah.
okay with this list?
Bess, you're on
Did you
mute.
do 791? The 791,
Yeah.
which is the allocation of discretionary? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And you didn't call out the ordinance to rezone, correct?
No.
That'll lay over at least a week and then we can have more information and have an educated vote. Okay.
Sorry, guys.
All right.
He's saying it's over.
Guard dog.
Time to end.
He said, walk me, feed me or something. I want some attention.
He got
Madam
on
Clerk?
there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, on 40-786, that's supposed to be small besides Manzi. On the paperwork, it has smalls, but that's District 3.
And Lisa, did we, I can't recall whether we did my contribution to United Way last week.
I don't think so.
No. No.
Yeah, and Lisa, do you have mine as well? I added it, I think yesterday, or Deidre was going to.
She didn't get it to me.
Okay, if we can just go ahead and add that.
If we could add those two, that would be great.
How much are you all giving, if you don't mind me asking? Oh. Let me give that some thought. I'll reach back out to the clerk.
Rich is giving $2,000.
Cause I gave at the end of last year, but I guess it's another need. I'll give it some thought, yeah. Any further announcements?
Mr. President,
Ms. Gregory?
it's good to see everybody wearing their pink today, and I do have a proclamation for breast cancer today. So I'll read that and just talk a little bit about some of the events that are going on. So I guess you'll do that after the mayor, or when do you want to do that?
That would be fine.
Okay.
Any other announcements?
Have a public safety committee meeting at noon. Is that correct?
Right. I said 10 minutes, that's 12. 12:10.
And then tomorrow we have the Administrative Services Committee meeting talking about the vacations for the jail. So that's at 10 o'clock tomorrow via Zoom.
All right. Well, here are no further announcements. We will adjourn this particular meeting and we'll see each other at 10:30.